Welcome back. A lot happening in the business world this week, and here to talk about some of the big stories in business is our financial expert, Nick Bontis. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, Nick, so we know two American companies right now say more people will be out of a job. We know we've just mentioned about 700 jobs. Those are going to be lost because of Caterpillar and that plant closing down. We also know there's more layoffs expected at U.S. Steel. So are American companies getting a better deal in the U.S.?
I don't think it's that simple. I think what they're asking us to do is probably a little unreasonable. I mean, in terms of the Electro-Motive scenario in London, Ontario, asking people to give up 50% of their salary, you know what, I don't know anybody who can give up 50% of their salary, let alone hard-earned paying workers. So that one I think was unreasonable. What worries me more about that deal was that they actually made a deal with the Harper government to get a $5 million tax treatment benefit to actually set up the plant there in London. So what are they doing with that $5 million little bonus kitty that they got a few years ago? I would be really upset if I found out that they moved a bunch of equipment and technology down to the U.S. On the U.S. Steel side, closer to our community, 200 plus workers, again, saddens me greatly, especially this past week. The United Way campaign, U.S. Steel donated $300,000 to the United Way campaign. So you see these people, they're giving, Kay. It's called people, planet, and profits, the triple bottom line. Let's not just worry about profits
here. Okay, well, let's jump in here. Is there anything our government can do?
Well, you know what? The government needs to do two things, in my opinion. Number one, make sure that those people that are getting laid off, you transition them better, provide them with opportunities to find new jobs, perhaps in the same sector or a different sector. The second thing the government has to do when they negotiate for any business to come into our country and they give them a tax benefit, make sure you tell them they have to keep those jobs guaranteed for a specific period of time. And they cannot give up on that deadline. If they do, you yank that money back.
Okay, well, let's use, for example, in Serbia, the government bought back a plant from U.S. Steel for a symbolic $1. Right. Is that something that our government could do?
Let me be honest with you on that one. It doesn't make sense. Okay, let's say that we bought back the U.S. Steel plant for $1. Now what? What do? Make steel? There's no market. That's the reason why they're shutting it down, because there's not enough people buying the steel locally. So it's not as easy just to have the government buy the property. It is a competitive market, and we have to maintain productivity competitiveness. So I don't think it's as simple as just buying it for a buck.
Okay, so let's switch over now. The economists are saying the U.S. is getting the better part of us because of the economic numbers. What's your take on all this?
So in terms of the unemployment rates, let's compare apples and apples, not apples and oranges. We still have a lower unemployment rate, about 7-some-odd%, where the U.S. is about 8-some-odd%. So we're still a 1% better. They are moving in the right direction better than us, but they still haven't reached our particular target level. So it's not doom and gloom. Don't forget, the U.S. started from a worse position, so they had a better delta to make up, in other words. But frankly, in terms of 7%, I think we're still doing fine. Obviously, the U.S. Steel and the Electro-Motive numbers aren't going to help out some of those regions.
Okay, and quickly, we've got to talk about Facebook. Of course, their IPO going public. What do you think of this? Is it a good investment and a good thing for Facebook?
I'm not going to like it, so it's not a like on my Facebook account. You know what? People like you and me are not going to get into Facebook shares early. This is for institutional, big pension people, $100 billion, massive market cap. You want my advice? If you're really into it, you have to buy a stock because you just want to be part of the game. You know what? Buy a bank. It'll be nice and safe. And you know what? A year from now, you won't be crying that the thing tanked.
Always opinionated. We love that about you. Thank you, Nick.